If you go into a morgue and you have 5 teenage bodies lined up in the Western world, so the US, Australia, New Zealand, 4 of those suicides will be men. So 4 out of 5 young people that kill themselves are men, which is totally fucked up. That's an unbelievable, overwhelming number where we can look at it. I think anyone can look at it regardless of how you feel about men's rights and women's rights and go, there's something wrong. Something is happening in our society.
Welcome to Eros and Earth. I'm Megan Lambert. This episode is for anyone wondering what modern masculinity actually means, and for the women who love men and want more presence, polarity, and emotional safety in their relationship. If you've been feeling confused by alpha male culture, burned out by performance, or unsure how to show up as a man in these times, you're not alone. Today, I'm talking with my husband, James Mattingly, about healthy masculinity, masculine-feminine polarity, why masculinity isn't a rigid role, but an embodied energy rooted in your body and your breath. We explore masculinity after feminism, how cultural whiplash affects intimacy, and what actually helps men stay grounded, confident, and connected in their partnerships. This is a conversation for men and the men we love, for anyone seeking deeper, more live relationships. Let's begin. Welcome to this episode of Eros and Earth. I am here with my husband, James. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, sweetheart.
All right. I'm so glad you're here. I have so been looking forward to this episode. This has been one of the ones I've been most excited about for the relaunch.
I love how excited you are to speak to someone you speak to every day. And that person's me.
Yeah. But you have really amazing insights on a topic that I think is super important for us to talk about right now, which is masculinity.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Let's start. What is masculinity?
Oh.
We start with a doozy.
Okay. Well, I think it really depends on which lens that you take it through. But I would say my lens of masculinity is, at its broadest sense, is an energy that runs through everything. And generally, the more identified you are with the masculine energy, the more you show up in certain ways that we think of as male, and vice versa with the feminine. Obviously, everyone's a mix of the two. So a desert, to me, feels like there's more masculine than Bali, where we are now with the jungle. And energy and movement tends to be more feminine than still and nothingness is masculine. So I would say masculinity, at its very extrapolated sense, is an energy that runs through everything, including us, as a way to understand ourselves.
I love that. And I think it's really important when we teach about masculine, feminine polarity, is that it's an energy, right? And it's not a gendered norm. So just so the listener has a little bit of background, in case you're new to me or James's or either of our work, we met 7 years ago after both having independently studied masculine, feminine dynamics, really learning about Tantra, sacred sexuality. And then we met, and I was leading women's retreats and women's work. And you were doing men's work and also yoga teacher training. And so polarity has been something that we have been studying, practicing, teaching independently for over a decade, and then together for, we've been together 7 years. We've been teaching for 6 years.
Yes. And polarity being when masculine and feminine feel a spark of attraction.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah. And so just to lay the groundwork for this episode, masculine, feminine energies are something that we all have regardless of our gender, or if you're non-binary, it's just energy, right? And I think about it like a keyboard. Like on one side is very feminine, one side is very masculine. To be a healthy, functioning human, you want to be able to play the full spectrum. You want to be able to play every key on the keyboard. And at the same time, you'll have a place that feels a little bit more like home to you.
For sure.
Yeah. What would you add to that?
I would just add a little bit to our story, that it was so cool to meet you. And I even said to my friend that day, I really just want to meet an experienced practice partner that I can practice. I didn't define the length of time, so I didn't think it'd also be my wife, but an experienced practice partner, because a lot of theory, which is what we're talking about now. It's like, here's this idea, and even the idea of energy to a lot of people might be a bit woo-woo. But the theory of everything that I've been studying, suddenly we had this amazing container to put it back into practice and to see how these dynamics work as a way of explaining and understanding.
Did you try? Why is your phone
why is Siri listening to me? That's creepy.
creepy?
As a way of understanding the world. And we've been able to practice ever since. And how in a way that, because none of this matters unless it has an impact on you and your relationship. Otherwise, it's just words.
Totally. And you might be like, wait, what are you practicing? We're practicing relating, practicing relationship, and intimacy, sensuality, communication. These are all things. And we call it a practice because we're continually evolving and hopefully getting better at it as the years go on. I think we are getting better at it. But it's like none of us, I don't think, are born knowing exactly how to relate to the opposite sex or to whoever your desired intimate partner is. It's like it's this ongoing, lifelong practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So if we were to just quickly go back to defining masculine and feminine from the most abstract, you said the feminine is energy and the masculine is?
Well, I'd say the feminine is something and the masculine is nothing.
Okay. Do you want to look?
The feminine is everything that is, and the masculine is everything that observes what is. And if you think about it and you extrapolate it to your own sense, wow, I've said extrapolate more than so far. There's a lot of extrapolation. But if you think about it just in anecdotal sense, like I think about your side of the bathroom compared to my side of the bathroom. There is so much more stuff, or your bedside table versus mine, or your wardrobe versus mine. There's a lot of somethingness versus nothingness. Or I've heard you speak to your friends and me about just how long they then tend to spend pooping because it's a great point of time for nothingness.
Just sit on the toilet doing nothing.
Exactly.
Summer, what are you doing in there?
So there's this movement of feminine energy towards life, towards something, to move vibrancy, towards radiance, but it's basically anything that is. And for masculine, there's this sense towards nothingness. And a lot of the time when men get caught up in doing, it's doing to get to nothing, like to get the goal. And then you have the release of like, oh, I just kicked the perfect goal, or to make $1 million and you make it, oh, then hopefully it's an illusion, but I can feel nothing. When the opposite is just being alive and the movements and murmurations of life.
Yeah.
Something versus nothing.
Yeah, totally. And you might even feel this inside of yourself. Like I know for me, if I'm in masculine mode, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get things done on my to-do list. I'm going to check them off. I'm thinking like linearly, decisively, clearly, and cleanly. I'm like, if there's a decision to be made, I'm going to make it and move on. Right? That is me and my masculine. Versus if I'm more in a feminine, I'm like, let's talk about it. Let's look at it from every angle. Let me feel into it. I want to think about, like, I want to, talk to my friends about it. I want to consider the context and the nuances. There's more texture, sensation, feeling around whatever it is that I'm trying to do or I'm creating or I'm experiencing. Yeah. Okay. So I think that this conversation is really important to me right now around masculinity, because there's a lot of masculinity teachers in the space that are teaching something that I feel really concerned about.
Yeah.
Because we teach about masculine, feminine, and I'm also a feminist. I believe that like women and men should be equal in power and respect, not necessarily equal in what and how we behave. But there's a lot of teachers out there like Nicholas Fuentes and Andrew Tate and the whole All Right pipeline that are teaching something very different.
Yes.
What are you noticing about what's out there when it comes to masculinity teachers?
I'm noticing it's a very confusing time to be a man. And there's so many conflicting messages and not a great number of examples of how to live with strength and sensitivity and power and softness. And what I think is happening is a reaction to a movement of men. So let's go back to the 50s. There's this dominant, unsensitive man and the domesticated housewife as a general thing. And that's not great. Women's rights were in the toilet. It was extremely dictatorial and patriarchal. So the women's movement allowed women to be emancipated in a lot of areas in the world, vote, equal rights, equal positions, etc. There's still work to be done, but by and large, it's been successful because women are outdoing men in almost every realm of business and earning.
Not yet.
And many of them.
No, I not quite yet. I wanted to say that too, but I looked it up yesterday, and we're actually still 93 cents on the dollar for entry level roles. And then the gap gets higher and higher the higher up you go in a company. Unfortunately.
University is still exceeding that.
University women are outpacing men.
It's a huge success. Let's say put it that way.
With work still to do.
Yes, agreed. So then men had a similar movement towards softness. So particularly in the 70s, men started taking drugs and remembering they had a body and they could enjoy things and breathe and have fun rather than just do this crazy working all of the time false masculinity thing. And playing drums, playing music, whatever it might be, it created this real softness that was so needed, but we didn't get the pendulum the other way. So what came out of that as a pendulum swing was not a healthy version that took the strength and solidity from the machoistic man with the sensitivity. It just pushed the sensitivity out and away. It's kind of gone 3 steps backwards and just being, this is how it is, this is what a man is, and this is how it should be. So I think we're experiencing the pendulum effect of that.
Got it. Okay. So we had the 1950s. It was very clear gender roles. Then we were doing the feminist movement, and women were wearing, pantsuits with shoulder pads, and men were drumming and feeling. And now we're in the backswing. And then we have people, the trad wife movement and the alpha male movement. And what are these movements getting right, and what are they getting wrong, in your opinion?
It could be argued that they're getting right is polarity. So polarity comes when there's a difference between masculine and feminine. Sameness is like 2 best friends. So polarity comes when there's a clear masculine role and a clear feminine role, not in life, but in any specific moment. So I imagine a lot of the time this would allow for polarity because there's clearly defined roles. It's way easier to be in a trad life relationship than it is to be in one where you're creating it, which we can talk about later, because there's a preconceived way to do it. What they're getting wrong is a lot. And the main thing I would say is that it's mistaking the masculine energetics with masculine traits and saying that's what it should be. So masculine energy tends to be a little bit more stoic because it leans towards nothingness. It's a little more directive, et cetera, et cetera. So you might say, oh, okay, then a masculine energy should be a big, strong dude that chops down trees and is the head of the household because of that. And that's what's good. And that's what it should be, as if there's a way to be a man. That's what's going wrong. They're mistaking the energy with real world traits in a way that's rigid rather than malleable. And then that causes all sorts of troubles because suddenly you have a way to be. And if you're not that way, then you're not a man, which is no different than what it was growing up in the 90s, being called a weakling or a pussy if you cried, right? It's the same thing. There's a way to be a man. And because of it, there's a really large echo chamber that's resonating with a lot of young men that don't have an opposite role model that is strong and sensitive. So it's mobilizing the largest, most dangerous group of people on the earth, which is young, disenfranchised men.
Yeah. Yeah, because it makes sense. I mean, it sounds like there's this large group of men that are like, okay, I want polarity. I want attraction. I don't know how to relate with women. So they're looking for answers. And what they're finding is these teachers that are saying, here's the role. Yeah. Here's the rigid script of what it means to be a man, rather than let's explore masculine, feminine energy and feel what feels most true in your body in this moment.
Totally. And that's way more easy, right?
Yeah.
If something says, this is the answer.
Right.
God, I wish it was that simple.
Yeah. Here's how to talk to a woman. Here's how to make it simple. Here's how to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
I actually would love for you to share your poem at some point on this episode about how to be a man. He wrote this
somewhere.
It was beautiful spoken word about the messages that men receive, if you'd like.
Can.
Yeah. So, okay. So they're collapsing this thing, which is masculine, feminine energy, which is full of a nuance and aliveness and moment to moment change, right? Because one moment you can be masculine, I can be feminine. Another moment we might switch,
Yeah,
still polarity, into these teachers are collapsing it into a rigid set of rules or in a script.
exactly.
And what is the danger in that?
Um, the two main dangers that I think about is what it does to men. So, like the most striking image is from Scott Galloway, who does a lot of good work for men these days, young men in particular. Is like if you go into a morgue and you have five teenage bodies lined up in the Western world, so the US, Australia, New Zealand, four of those suicides will be men. So four out of five young people that kill themselves are men, which is totally fucked up. That's an unbelievable, overwhelming number where we can look at it. I think anyone can look at it regardless of how you feel about men's rights and women's rights and go, there's something wrong. Something is happening in our society. So one part of being a traditional man is traditional man. One part of this delineation of roles is that you have to be an island unto yourself. The more you can handle without breaking, the better. The more stoic you are. Don't show emotion. Don't be vulnerable and don't share, especially not to your woman, right? And that's been a trap for men long before this particular movement. And it means that all of this stuff that they're unwilling to feel builds up and life just feels totally overwhelming to the point it becomes easier to opt out than stay in. So that's one danger. A lot of young men are dying from suicide. The other danger is, as I said before, the most dangerous group of people in the world are young disenfranchised men with all that testosterone going through their body. And it's like, it can be dangerous to women, the way that these men are relating and talking about. Some of these lessons can either explicitly promote violence towards women or very, very easily lead that to the conclusion because there's this might makes right, masculine is right, masculine is the head vibe rather than any kind of interplay or relationality.
Makes me really teary and like tender and teary eyed. We watched together Adolescence,
Geez, yeah.
which if you haven't watched it and if you have kids, definitely need to watch it because it shows that, right? Like how this alt-right pipeline trying to teach young men what it means to be a man um, leads to objectification of women, violence towards women, whether emotional or physical. Um, and that's scary,
Super scary.
right? As a parent, we have both a son and a daughter. Like that freaks me out from both sides of the equation.
I think if you're a parent, if you're not still, but if you're a parent, I highly recommend watching it because it's pretty eye opening.
Yeah.
And then we got to, it's fictional, but then we got to speak to my young nephews
Yeah.
who are all in their 20s. And it was like bang on. Like they knew about the themes and the ideas and the memes within it and the consequences of it. So it seems
Real. It's real, which means for all of us, it's real,
Yeah.
right? Because this is our future, our collective future. So what's the alternative? Like, what do you think we need culturally in this moment, given what's happening?
To raise or hear the voices that are less loud. It's kind of like working out. An online exemplifies this. It's like, okay, here's 10 steps to getting your abs. Just do these things. It's so attractive to go with that because it seems so easy. And then someone's telling you what to do. It almost never works. That's way less attractive than saying, yeah, you can get your abs if you want, but it's going to take a lot of practice and a lot of experiment and a lot of trying. That's a way more true way to think about your body. And I think it's the same with this. So I think it takes raising up the people that aren't as dictatorial or loud and choosing who you listen to and who you speak to carefully. And those people that are in the roles of strength and softness within like doing what I would call modern healthy masculinity or embodied masculinity and being louder and more of an example.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like from the consumer take, having a bit of discernment about who's loud but offering surface level responses and who's quiet yet offering depth.
Yeah.
And for people who are teaching this more nuanced view of polarity and relating, it's get louder, get more visible.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to just spotlight you for a minute, but I think you're an amazing example of what a modern masculinity looks like because you are decisive and clear and often. And sometimes you're tender and sensitive, that you can be with my intensity of feelings without collapse, which I think is a really masculine trait. And you also let yourself have your own feelings, right? You're not only a container for my feelings. And I think that in the just those couple examples, there's a lot more I could say. I think you're a really great example of what a healthy masculine looks like. Yeah.
Thank you, my love.
I can keep going, but
No, it's important. It's important to me. I think it's just part of my makeup that I feel I get warning bells when I go too far down one route. So I know how to fight. Like I've done a lot of different martial arts, but I've never gone as deep as some of that study for years or a decade. Just that I've studied for decades, but it's not just that thing. There's a pulling in me to also study poetry. And for me, that it helps me understand myself and the world from different extremes and then come to something that feels true to me. It's way more hard. Like it's way more challenging, I think, but it suits me.
I think so. And I think you are exactly what I was needing. Different women might need different things in a man, right? But what I was needing is I was like, I want to be a powerful woman in my own right. And I want to be respected and admired. But I also want to have moments when I swoon and surrender and get swept off my feet and whisked away for the weekend and feel like soft and girly and flirtation.
Totally.
Right. But I also want to be respected for my power, my competence, intellectually, professionally. And it can be hard, I think, to find a man that can hold both of those versions of me, because it means that I needed to find a man that had both of those versions of him.
You are a lot of women.
Yeah.
And for sure, I would not have been able to meet you if I'd not done this type of work first. I just wouldn't have been able to, like, you're such a developed human. You have such a great capacity of both masculine and feminine, but I would not have been able to meet it unless I'd studied it myself. It's not something that came naturally to me. It was a learned thing.
What did you have to learn?
So much. I remember going to my first workshop. A friend invited me to one about a decade ago with my mentor, Eli Barin. And I came out of it, and in the workshop, there was some talking, but it was a lot of exercises and different movements and unusual things I hadn't really done. And I come out of it, and I remember standing in the street thinking, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? Like, I felt so different to what I realize now is that I was in my healthy, embodied masculine for the first time that I could remember in a stable way. First time, perhaps. And it was so confronting. I went and bought a beer and a pack of Pringles and lay in bed eating it. Like, this is too much. So I had to learn time and time again, rather than the patterns that are put over my true self. I had to learn living from that space where it felt right for me, which isn't a lumberjack chopping down trees and isn't someone that's super stoic, but it's also definitely not someone that's super flowing and super feminine. I had to find somewhere that felt right to me, and that's where I aim to move from with the work, because it feels more true.
Yeah, it reminds me that you're, as Rev Joe calls you, you're a warrior poet. That's what she called you, right? Warrior poet?
Yeah.
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 You're a warrior poet, but that your flavor might be different from another man's flavor, right? There might be someone who's authentically like lumberjack, survival, nature, survivalist, right? Or not even what they're doing, but that flavor.
Or a dancer, intuit, empath.
Yeah.
So, like, my main message for men is there's no one way to be a man.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what's going wrong in the messaging today.
Totally.
But there is ways to feel more yourself over the patterns that you've learned from your life, your parents, and your trauma.
Yeah. And so if there's a man listening to this episode right now that's like, okay, how do I find out how to be masculine and myself? How to be in this energy without collapsing it into a script or a role? What advice would you give him?
I mean, get into the work. It's so specific for each man, so there's not a practice that I can really think of, but going and studying with somebody that isn't preaching a thesis, that isn't preaching something that's carved in stone, but has some real depth and wisdom, And usually that means being around other men,
Mm.
ideally being around other men in nature. And yeah, that's where I'll go with it. If it's a specific man here, we could be like, hey, try this. But
Totally.
if I said every man should meditate for half an hour in the morning, then I'm in the same camp as the,
Totally. Okay.
you know?
And so what I'm hearing too is that it's relational and contextual is what you're saying. Is it's like it's not you're not going to hand out a script. You're like get in relationship with someone you respect and admire.
Yes.
Yeah. And get yourself in a context where you can grow and find these edges and find out what your flavor of masculinity is.
I like the practice personally of looking at men that are maybe 10 to 20 years older than I am and saying, would I want to live like that?
Yeah.
Would I want to be like in that situation? There are some teachers that I learn a lot from that I just don't. I'm like, I don't want to be like that person. That's crazy. But there are a lot that I look at and go, yeah, I could really be like that. And that would be a good person to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see a man that's vibrantly angry at women, you'd be like, do you want to be someone who's vibrantly angry at women in 10 years from the time? I don't know.
And to your point, like, I think finding someone that is 10 to 20 years further down the path is important because a lot of the teachers I see are like the same age as everyone they're learning from.
That's totally true.
Like 20-year-olds coaching 20-year-olds. And I mean, I was guilty. I was 20 when I started my coaching business, 26 or something. But I think it is important to look down the path and find someone who has been down this route and has a little bit more mud on their boots.
You would probably do better to learn from your grandfather than you would from another 20-year-old on Instagram. And that's not saying you don't have anything to offer at 20 or 25 or 26. There's real value, but there's something about life that has a way of teaching you things that you can't know until you've been through it.
So true. I just interviewed my dad and Rev Joe. So someone in their 60s and someone in their 70s. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of life wisdom here. Like real tangible life wisdom.
Well, and I love the interview. We had a conversation yesterday with someone that's a community builder.
Yeah.
And at the end you say, I'd love to interview for a podcast. He's like, that's a hard maybe. We're like, why? And he said, well, I was really an entrepreneur. I was really into it and loud in my 20s and telling people what was the truth, et cetera, et cetera. And now I realize how untrue that was. Yeah. Or how much has my view has changed. So I'm very reluctant to put myself out there in that way. And I'm like, that's the difference between information and wisdom.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is kind of ironic because what we were just saying we need more of is people with wisdom to be louder.
Yeah.
But they're often also the ones that are reticent to be louder.
Totally.
Because they're like, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. There's even I forget the term for it, but if you have three people in a debate, the loudest one with a little bit of experience will always be the one that people vote for, as opposed to the expert and the person that doesn't know anything, which is interesting no matter what your political view, but has some resonant themes.
Yes, I could see that. Well, I feel slightly sad hearing that because I'm like, all right, we need wisdom, we need depth. But I know I also have to trust that there are people out there in the world who are looking for wisdom and depth. And like, I recently got onto Substack and people are writing long form written essays again themselves, not AI. And that gives me hope. I'm like, there are people that care to think and read deeply still.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go back to men-women dynamics for a second.
Sure.
And ask this question that is very chargy. And I know you're not going to be able to give simple answers, but what do women want? What do women want in a man?
Want and need.
Okay, that's a good distinction. What do they want versus what do they need?
I think women, like men, are a very inaccurate judge of what they want.
Oh, no.
I know.
Saying that they want versus what do you think they actually need?
Well, at least, so it depends on the age, but there's a pretty common trope around our age is like, I just want my king to step in and make me feel more feminine. That's a lot of what I hear.
Protect and provide so I can finally soften.
Exactly. And we could probably do an entire podcast episode just on that. What women are most affected by is actually kind of easy.
Okay.
Not to do, but as an idea, because it's presence.
You're doing it right now.
It's presence. Yeah.
He's turning it on right now. If you're watching video, you'll notice I'm starting to blush and sweat.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
More presence.
It
What,
has such a clear impact on my body when you do that.
yeah. What most men don't realize is that presence is a superpower for them and its effect on women in a really beautiful way.
It is so wild when you do this because I immediately feel like hot and sweaty and tingly and like more alive.
Yeah.
Okay, magician, let us behind the curtain. What are you doing when you slow down and say, be more present?
Um, Slowing down is a good part to put it. So I'm turning a huge amount of my awareness to you whilst also being aware of the space. So I'm being as present as I can in an embodied way to you and things around us. Which is, if you're watching or talking, if I'm not, I'm like this. Now, right now I'm having a conversation. Like it's no longer, it's like, oh,
The aliveness goes down.
it's no longer polarized. So we were speaking as friends, as husband and wife, and having a great interview. But the way to create polarity in the moment, from if you're holding the masculine pole, is to drop into presence, and it's a true superpower.
So, just so I can kind of break it down to someone listening, what you did is you took your attention
Mm-hmm.
and put it all onto me and my body, as
Mm-hmm.
well as in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do with your breath and your voice?
That comes naturally with the other thing. But the result would be probably my voice slowed down and probably deepened a little because I'm also more of myself when I'm more present to what's happening around me.
Okay. And this is something that is, you can't really learn from a podcast. You can try and do it right now as you're listening. But this is a great thing to learn with a mentor.
Oh my God, this is 90% of the work with the men's work that I do, for example. So you'd have two men, like just an idea of a practice would be two men opposite each other. And it doesn't have to be polarized with men and women. It is with two men, it's just presence. It's highly blissful when two men are just present looking at each other. But as soon as one feels the other one waver, you might slap them on the shoulder. Oh, yeah, you're right. I was like wavering and it was felt. Or you might have two men looking at each other, staying present. And if there are a woman there, yelling and screaming or moving in a sexy way, just to see how great their capacity is to maintain presence. And it's the single sexiest thing. There is no muscles, no amount of money, nothing that is more attractive to a feminine being than presence.
100%.
Yeah.
I can say in my past life, I have dated men who were physically unattractive, broke, even missing teeth, but because they were deeply present. And also, it was the first thing I noticed about you. We were on the dance floor and he was so in that moment. Like he wasn't thinking about his to-do list or whatever was happening. He wasn't thinking, how do I look? Do I look good? He was just so in that moment and so with me. My whole body felt lit up and on fire. And I was like, wow, I love this feeling. I love being with this man. I want to be with this man more.
Yeah, I think it's really important to say that 99% of my life, I'm not present like this. Like I have my thoughts, I have my insecurities, I'm thinking about business, I'm worrying about our business projects, I'm whatever it might be. There's so many things that take me out of this very true, very dear state to be in. And when I bring it in is when I need to resource if I'm by myself, like in presence. And then I bring it with us in two ways. One is to remind you of your body. Yeah. And the other one is an intimacy. So the key to maintaining intimacy over a long time is polarity or attraction. And that's also a practice. And one of the ways to do it is to bring presence.
Yes. And I want to say to those women that say, I'm just waiting for my king. I just can't wait until I find a man who is present like this so I can finally surrender, that this work actually goes both ways. That his presence can bring out your aliveness, but your aliveness can bring out his presence.
Totally.
So, just as he dropped in and was present, I can also be here and I can like take a deeper breath and feel my body and like drop into my sensuality. And then suddenly, no matter where his attention is on business, work, the kids, he'll be like, oh, what's happening over here?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like it's one of the feminine superpowers. No matter what's going on, if you do that, it's like I might be fully focused, but it'll be like, oh, I'm suddenly attracted to what's happening over here.
Yeah. And so for any women listening to this, if you are craving more polarity, whether you're in an existing relationship or you're looking for a partner that is really present, your work, if you want to play the feminine pole in that moment, is to bring in aliveness, is to bring in felt sensation, to feel your body, your breath, your feel what feels good, notice your sensations, receive the air on your skin, amplify that through your body and your breath.
Yeah.
And that also is easier said than done, easier to do with a teacher. Yeah. Okay. So presence is what women really want.
Yeah.
So it's
Really.
not the money, the abs, the 6'2". It's not the protector provider.
All of those things are an example of an aspect of masculine energy. So if you have a really nice car, it means that you've had the capacity to set a goal for money, drive towards it, and you've won. So it's a signifier that you have enough money, which is a protecting thing, right?
That's true.
The same thing with fighting.
Mhm.
Like if you know how to fight, you know how to take care of yourself, it's a signifier. With your body, if you've got a strong, healthy body, it's a signifier again of protection, right? So one's providing and one's protecting. So these are both, I mean, who doesn't want a partner that's wealthy and good looking?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not bad things. A lot of people get stuck on that though.
Mm.
And money will shift and change. Looks will fade. If you want a deeply fulfilling relationship, it needs to be below the surface of those things. If you want a surface relationship, stay there. Good-looking man with a lot of money will get a good-looking woman that stays on the surface. Great. Do you want that over a long time? Do you want to be 80 and be worrying about your partner's wrinkles? You know?
Well, I think that cat's out of that bag.
Hmm.
It makes me think of a plant, actually, when you say it, of like presence being the roots of the plant, the thing to tend, and then what is growing, blooming, or sprouting might be abs, new business idea, fancy car. But it's all coming from root, or can come from root,
Depending on your focus.
depending on your focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not that women don't want abs and cars and all that. It's that what they want is deeper than that, and it's present.
I don't know what they want. What will be fulfilling to them in a long-term way? I think women know this. I'm sure most women have been with a man that's either very wealthy or successful or very fit and good looking, just been like craving deeply something more. Like women are very intuitive with this.
Yeah.
So it's probably not news, but it might just be a different way of looking at it.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, for me, it feels like when I meet a man who's deeply present, it feels like being met, like in a nonverbal soul way.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we help couples with is reconnecting after having kids.
Yeah.
Right. And finding each other again after the huge journey that is pregnancy, birth, postpartum.
Yeah.
What would you want men to know about rediscovering your partner after that journey?
I think the first would be a reminder that's so cool about dating or being with a woman is that a woman is so changing. Like she changes week to week with a moon cycle, right? Like that's amazing. That's 4 women in one. And then you have this big, round, beautiful body when she's pregnant, all curves and like fullness of femininity. And then you have this nurturer taking care of this little baby and the household often. And I think that's the first thing. Would be really to appreciate how dramatically changing she is and find ways to love it.
That's beautiful. Reminds me of the story I tell our kids who are 2 and 4 about Mr. Sun and Mrs. Moon, and how Mr. Sun falls in love with Mrs. Moon because every night she's changing and he can never predict exactly who she's going to be next. And he loves that, keeps him on his toes. And I think that's helpful too for women, because I know a lot of women, as their body's changing, can go through a lot of insecurity around that. Like, am I still sexy when I have a huge belly? Am I still sexy when I'm bleeding and leaking milk and have a flabby tummy post-birth? And
it's the equivalent cultural trope for a man who's like, am I still sexy if I don't have the good car and the abs?
Yeah.
Right. So the opposite for women is radiance. And that can be really hard when you're in postpartum and you're like to feel like a shower might be the first thing to do, right? To
Life-giving showers postpartum.
yeah. But I mean, you can speak better to this. Maybe then that's just a moment, a look, or a touch that can transmits of, because the radiance is always there. It's just opening to it.
I think something that helped me a lot when I was going through that is how you told me every day that I was beautiful.
Yeah.
Even when I was postpartum, you'd be like, you're so beautiful. Like, I love how you take care of our baby, and like really like marveling at the way my body changed.
That's amazing.
Grew and shrunk and grew and shrunk. And yeah, and that is such, I think, a masculine role that a partner could play is being that mirror of beauty.
Yeah.
Is helping your partner continue to find and see beauty as their bodies and their sense of self changes through these seasons.
And on a really practical way for men, you can just find one thing.
Yeah.
Like some men may not be attracted to a big pregnant belly, right? But maybe it's a sparkle in her eye or how warm she's being, how nurturing. There's always something there that can be spoken to. It's always a better way to give an appreciation anyway.
Yeah, totally. And what does masculinity look like because in pregnancy, birth, postpartum? Like, how can a man show up for his partner there?
In which part?
Let's start with just pregnancy.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is the biggest thing for the man is to create a connection to the baby. Talking or touching or being with, like, just a few minutes a day is actually enough. It's way harder for men to be connected. Obviously, it's not their body, but just spending some time making that thing more and more real and more connected is valuable for you, for your partner, and for the baby. And then there's necessary prep work, right? Just necessary things to do. And the beautiful reminder, I think if you got those three things down, you'll be doing pretty well.
I think so too. Yeah, some of my favorite moments of pregnancy is when you would kiss my belly. Really like stop and listen into the baby and kiss my belly. What about in early parenting? How could a man show up? What do you wish men knew about how they need to show up for their families in early parenting?
Get some support from another man.
Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. The most important thing that you can do is it could just be a very good friend if it's the kind of friend that you can be truthful to.
Yeah.
And be met by. It could be a coach or a therapist of some kind, but just someone to ring up and be like, hey, this is really, I know people said it'd be hard, but this is way harder and I'm really struggling and I don't know what to do. And just to have another man, particularly if they're a father, to be like, no, I know that. I went through that. I totally get it. Not fixing it, not solving it, but just another man. I think that helps the man show up for the benefit of the whole family.
That's so true. One of your best friends is about to have a baby for the first time. So there you go. Yeah, I think about, there's this saying that like the mama holds the baby and then the partner holds the mama. But then there's a question of who's holding the husband.
Yeah.
Right. And that has to be a best friend, a therapist, somebody, because I know as a new mama, like I had very little capacity to tend to anyone else's needs besides the babies and then occasionally my own.
Totally. Especially in those early months.
Yeah. It grows later, but in those early months. That's great advice. Okay. What about someone that doesn't have a baby, but wants to, like, what does protecting and providing look like in a modern relationship? Like if you're thinking about some of our friends, for example, that don't have kids yet, but they want polarity, they want him to be in his masculine, her to be in her feminine. What does that look like in a modern relationship?
What I'm interested in is the polarity part. So I don't care when he's in his masculine and she's in his feminine outside of they feel good. So we switch all the time. Like I came to you the other day and you gave me great, clear boundaries for treating the business that we're in right now that I was just lost in. I was lost in the swirl of it. You stepped outside of it and said, try this, do this. That's a total opposite. You're taking the masculine, I'm taking the feminine. So, or in parenting, man, it's really hard to keep polarity when you're changing a dirty diaper or you're trying to get out the door and your partner's forgotten to do the thing and all of that. So again, it's not about the man being masculine and the woman being feminine, but when it comes to polarity, that's where the practice is. So in polarity, one person has to take the masculine role, one person has to take the feminine role, because that's difference, and difference creates an attraction. Most of the time, if you're more masculine identified, you're going to take the masculine role. So most of the time I will, most of the time you'll take feminine. It can switch.
When you want polarity.
When you want polarity, right. So for us, we use love dates. We coach people to use love dates. Here's the time. This is when we're going to be, and we're going to connect physically and intimately. So in those moments, you need to have enough of a practice or an experience that you can hold that pole and your partner can receive. More important for the man than for the women.
Well, what's more important for the man than the woman?
Because if you have the capacity to be in your masculine, you're holding the container for the woman to relax into.
Mm.
If the woman also has to hold her radiance, but also hold the container, that's actually taking her out of her feminine into the outside.
Totally.
Yeah.
And sometimes I hold the pole on our love dates. I'm like, I set the scene and I'm like, okay, come in, and I've got the timer and I decide what we're going to do.
It's very sexy.
It is fun. And then at some point I'm like, okay, I don't want to be masculine. I want to like switch.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
we switch, right? So there has to be some dynamic play. It can't be like, it's not a script.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wow. We've covered a lot of territory.
There's a lot of different things we got into.
We got into so much. We got into like, what is masculinity? How to bring masculinity through all these different seasons of relationship, whether you're, just the two of you guys in pregnancy, early parenting. We talked about masculinity in a cultural context, what masculinity teachers are saying out there right now, what's great about that, what's not great about that. We talked about teaching young men about masculinity. Is there anything around masculinity you feel like we missed?
I mean,
I know we've been in so many angles, so many places.
Or
do we do enough for now?
I think let me just check in for a minute. I think it comes back to what I said earlier. There's no one way to be a man, and be very suspicious of anyone telling you there's one way to be a man. And if you feel like you're missing something in yourself, whatever that thing is, then get involved in the work. There's so many genuine, really good teachers out there. Maybe we can even list some in the podcast notes that will change your life. Like if you're not meeting the kinds of women you want, work on yourself. If you're not clear and directive in your business as you like to be, or you want to create something new, then work on yourself. It's a gateway to a bigger life and a more authentic you.
Yes. And so it is.
So it is.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you, babe. Thank you so much for being on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to make sure that there are links in the show notes to your work, men's work that you recommend, and ways that people can get in touch if they want to learn more about you or me or our couple's work.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you for listening.
I hope this episode touched you. If you loved it, share it with a friend or family member, or you can leave a review to help get the word out. Thank you. Until next time, root down, open up, Eros and Earth.